My name is Neil and this is Real Life Architecture. Now, one of the most useful tools for finding out about property in the UK is the local authority or local council planning portal. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for how to use this like a pro. So because I do consultations for homes right across the UK, one of the first things I do when someone books a consultation is to look up the local portal to see what history the council have for that property. I'm going to show you how to do this. So this is Edinburgh City Council, and you can see the format. There's a search up here for planning and building standards. A lot of people don't realise that the planning and the building regs system are separate. It's like your car tax and car insurance. I've made a video on my YouTube channel about that, and I'm going to come back to this. But today we're going to look at the planning system and how to use this. First thing to say is that this format, this way of laying things out, appears to be widespread and common across the UK. A lot of councils use it, not all of them. There are 382 local authorities in the UK. Many of them, maybe even most of them, use this format. I can only assume it's something that's sold to local authorities. This is Oxford City Council, Ealing Council, East Suffolk Council, Nottingham City Council, and Warwick District Council. And you'll notice they're all laid out in the same way with a search item up here in the top and simple, advanced, and property down here. And I'm going to go back to why these matter. So let's go to Edinburgh, because that's where I'm based. This is the one I'm familiar with. But like I said, they all kind of operate the same way. So don't worry about the advanced section. That's a whole other video. But the simple one is what we're going to do here. And you can type in the street, the postcode, the full address, and just hit search. Now, I've lined up some to show you an example of what to look for. So this is a random street in Edinburgh. There's no reason why I picked this one. It just shows something that's important. And you can see that when you look at property history, which is really important, if you're looking to buy a place, you want to know about the property history. You have the planning applications and you have the building standards. In Scotland, they're called building warrants, but in England, it'll be the building regulations approval. And what you're looking for here is to see, does the planning application track with the building regs approval? Because a lot of the time, you'll find people will have got planning approval for something, but they didn't go about getting the appropriate building regulations approval. So you can see here in 2001, that's what the O1 means, change of use to form 2-number residential flats. So they converted something which was not a domestic property like a shop or an office into flats back in 2001. They got planning approval for it. And then the following year, O2, building standards warrant, alter and change of use. So that's the building regulations approval tracking the previous planning application approval. So if you're going to buy a property, you want to make sure that the previous owners have done this correctly. Another one to look at is constraints. And this will list things like, is it a listed building? Is it in a conservation area? Here in Edinburgh, there are view cones. The local plan has described various restrictions on things. It's in a conservation area, and there are parking zones. Each local authority will be free to decide what restrictions to place on any given neighbourhood, street, or individual property, but they're often listed in there. Now, one of my favourite things to look at is the map. So this is a map of a street in Edinburgh, and this way of laying it out seems to be how most councils do it across the UK. And what you need to start with is enable filter, because it won't be on to begin with. And you can see straight away it's populating with some red lines. These show some applications within the last 6 months. If you go down here and go to all from 1st of January 2020, some local authorities have listed it as all time. And you can see we've ticked a box here, applications. Building standards, they've not been ticked. We can see that this property here, and I'm choosing this because I worked on this property, there are 1 of 3. That means there's 3 applications in the system. If you click the little arrow, it rolls through this, and you can see here's one, and I did this back in 2019. We can open in a new tab, and you get all the relevant information. So I'm not going to go into further information because that would list my client's name. They would be the applicant. I would be the agent, so all that information would be in there. Important dates, that shows when applications were made and when they were approved or refused or withdrawn. Here's one that really matters, related cases. Always click on this, and when you go into related cases, it will give you the address of the property. Click on it and it shows property history. And this is back to what I showed you earlier. This shows all the planning applications and all the building standards or building regulations applications that were made on that property going back as far as records exist. Now, planning applications will have the drawings in the system. I'll show you how to look for that. So if we click on this and we go to where it says documents, you can see these are all of the drawings and other documents that I submitted for the application on this property. And if you click on that little icon there, it will open each of these individual ones. But if you go back and look at the building regulations, which tracks this particular one, so it's the same building application. You can see there's the 2019, and again in the same year I put in the building regulations application for the same work. there are no drawings because the building regulation system doesn't store drawings in the public domain. I think every local authority is required to keep them, and they usually have a plan store or plan archive where you can pay money to get these drawings. But as a norm, only the planning application drawings are kept in the public domain on a portal like this where you can search them. So that's a simple tutorial for how to use your local planning portal. If you're looking at buying a property, or you've got a property and you want to alter it, or your neighbors are looking to make some changes to their property, these are the things you need to be looking for, and that is how to find them. If you found this useful, let me know about that in the comments.